We are on day 3 video now. So today's goal, day 3, is to find highlights or white. So you should already have created your dark values using black, which was our previous video. Now we are going to add the white, okay? We are going to start by adding the highlight or what is white at the top of the pumpkin, okay? Because the light would be coming from the top down, as in the sun is in the sky, and our imaginary pumpkins are sitting on the ground, okay? So I'm going to take the white today, and I'm going to start coloring it in from the top of the ridges till about the middle of the pumpkin. And you can see we are going to have some areas we leave as that mid-tone or the base of your paper. So for this example, it is going to be orange. Okay, you could have chosen another color. That was an option too. So I'm thinking of what places are highlighted, what places are catching the light, what places are not catching the light and therefore are in shadow, which means they have black, or maybe a mid-tone. You can always go back at any time and increase your values. So I'm noticing that I feel like I could have this dark value at the bottom of the pumpkin shape be a little more intense. So I'm going to go ahead and work back in a little bit of my black value to intensify the dark shadows. Okay. And you can see it's starting to look more three-dimensional as we work in those highlights and those shadows, okay? So this one, what I would say, is getting quite close to being at the point where I have highlights. I have midtones, which is the orange of my paper, and then I have shadows, okay? This one is still in need of a little bit of the highlights and shadows, okay? If you get to a point where you feel like you have this, then your challenge is how can you complete the image, okay? So I like to have a little fun with it and say, okay, maybe there are some vines, that are growing out of the pumpkin. Maybe we have some leaves there. And of course, anything that you make, is going to also need to have a value in consideration. Maybe we have sort of like this kind of moon in the sky. Maybe you're going to actually create a little scene around your pumpkin. So for example, I like the idea of maybe there's a hillside. So I'm going to make a horizon. Maybe we have like some distant fence. Okay. Thinking of just, your basic shapes and lines and how you're going to add, sort of some magic to the image, to finish it off. Okay. Make sure that you don't have whatever is behind your pumpkin competing with with your pumpkin. So if you noticed, I drew this fence and then I also kind of just darkened that side of the pumpkin to get it to pop out a little bit, because those pumpkins should be in front of whatever is in this background scene, and we want to make sure that that is clear. Maybe there's a little bit of some shading on this distant hillside. Of course, I'm going to add some white to the moon. Don't forget to please use your hand sharpeners if you need to, okay, to try and get your pencils ready to go. We also have the crank sharpeners, but please be gentle with these. Please do not shove them in there. They work really, really well if you're just gentle with the sharpeners, because they will start being needed to be sharpened as you guys are working through day 2 and 3 here. Okay, maybe I'm going to add a little bit of white into the leaves here. Okay, enjoy these last, few steps where you are adding the details, because that is what makes, it unique. That is what finishes the image strong. Okay, so don't cheapen out on finishing these last few steps, because they are really what's going to push this image into something that is really spectacular. So I've decided I'm going to color this entire distant hill just a sort of mid-tone gray. So you can see I'm doing a light pressure with my black pencil. And that is because I don't want to lose any of the detail of like the leaves of my pumpkin, or the shape of my pumpkin. So I do want there to be some suggestion of a background, but I don't want it to take away from my main subject, which is my value pumpkin. Okay. I'm going to do my best to get a nice even mid-tone. So you can see I'm trying to fill in all of those streaky areas so that it all reads as one sort of gray tone. Okay. And now we have a nice kind of quiet background here that supports our front image. Okay, you need to include at least 3 other items in your background as part of your day 3, finishing these up. Oops. So for example, I would count the moon as one, right? But I'm going to work to add a little detail. If you choose to add a horizon, then that counts as you're adding a horizon. So you're going to need to think of what other things go along with the horizon. I feel like there should be this sort of like fun kind of radiating light that's around the moon. So I'm going to work a little bit of my white and my black into the sky. Okay, so just have fun with these last few steps here. Maybe there are some Halloween creatures. Maybe there's a little cat by your pumpkin. Have some fun adding the details with your colors, and look at how nice and 3-dimensional this pumpkin that is finished feels as compared to this pumpkin that does not have any value added. So kind of nice comparison here between where you start and where you should end up. Thank you.